What's up guys, I'm Notorious Rex and this is my first tier list video. Unlike most tier list videos, we're going to use this to help balance the game a little bit by focusing on the speed of different dinosaurs, and we're going to adjust these as we go. So these speeds over here on the side are actually going to be different for some of the dinosaurs that are currently in the game. And the purpose of this is to give smaller dinosaurs like Omniraptor and Dilo a chance at getting away from larger dinosaurs like Carnotaurus, or giving Ceratos a chance to maybe get away from things like that are larger and more powerful like Tenos and Mayas in larger packs. This is meant to help balance the game a little bit and separate the largest kinds of dinosaurs from the smallest ones, even if it's not necessarily scientifically accurate. As we all know, everybody plays the game differently, and it's not always fun to have larger, more powerful dinosaurs run you down and kill you every single time you try and play the game. It starts to get a little bit repetitive. So this is meant to help make things more competitive in the game and a little bit more balanced and fun to play for everyone. So let's start up here. The fastest of the fast, 54 to 60 kilometers an hour. Now remember, this isn't necessarily how things are right now. This is just an idea for how things could potentially be to help balance it a little bit. So up here, we're going to place Omniraptor first. Alright, so Omniraptor is a smaller tier dinosaur, I believe, and currently right now it is slower than its predator Dilo and Carno, and having it up here will definitely help with its escape, its ability to escape those predators, especially Carno, which can charge and go even faster anyway. This is meant to help keep Omniraptors alive a little bit longer and increase its playability. Next on the list, we've got Ostroraptor. Next on the list, Ostroraptor. Not yet in the game yet, but kind of the same as the Raptor. It's gonna run into the same issues. It's not too much bigger, but it's definitely still smaller, I believe, than Carnotaurus and Dilo, and so it's gonna need some help escaping. And by keeping it in the same tier as something like an Omniraptor, it makes the player-to-player combat a little bit more competitive if they're similar speeds. Because now either one of them can get away or attack and have a chance at winning depending on their mutations. The other one is Ostroraptor. Not yet in the game yet either, but again is probably going to run into similar issues. And because it's got a similar size to these two, we're going to put it up here at the same speed. Again, this can be like between 54 and 60 kilometers an hour running on land. Just kind of help with its survivability. The next one on the list is Dryo. Currently, kind of sort of in the game on unofficials, depending on the server that you get on. Well, it'll probably be AI in the future if they don't give it its burrowing ability, but for now, should definitely have this kind of speed to help keep it ahead of larger predators. Next up on the list is Trudon. This poor little guy gets messed up by pretty much everything it goes against. It's already the weakest thing in the game, I think. Pretty much one shot by anything kills it. So I think it definitely needs some speed. Right now it's actually not that fast compared to some of the larger carnivores in the game. And it's pretty disappointing. It even makes moving around on such a large map with this little dude just such a pain. So increasing its speed would definitely be be helpful. And the last one, no. Alright, let's move down on the list. 50 to 54 kilometers an hour. First, there's only one guy in this tier that I'm going to put here, and it's Dilo. Dilo right now is between Omniraptor being the slowest, Carnotaurus being the fastest, between those two in terms of speed. And that's fine. I'm going to keep that as it is. But now it's going to be close enough to something like an Omniraptor, Ostro, Ovi, these other two. It's going to be closer to them in terms of speed, but which is going to make its chases more competitive, but it's still going to be just slow enough to give these other guys a chance to escape. Next up, as you guys could probably guess, we're going to have Carnotaurus. If I can find the icon, here we go. We're going to have Carnotaurus. Carnotaurus is going to be faster than everything else that comes up, but using its charge, it's probably going to be able to ambush and go up a tier or two on this list. But I think to start off, it should definitely be here and use its charge to catch up and ambush prey instead of just being flat out faster than everything else, stronger than everything else, and then putting the charge on top of that to make it even more of a threat. So now we're going to put it here between 45 and 49 kilometers an hour, so that it has a chance to catch everything else and everything else has a chance to escape. Now, between 40 and 44 kilometers an hour, we are going to start with Ceratosaurus. Now, Cerato, as a lot of people who currently play the game know, is, well, debatably broken. I think the most broken thing about Cerato is probably its ability to body buff, but we might get to that in another video. But we're going to put this between 40 and 44 kilometers an hour. Clearly not going to be as fast as a Carno or anything else that I listed above, but in its own right, still powerful. And I think that placing it on this list kind of keeps in step with how the game currently is, because Cerato is definitely slower than everything else on this list in the game as it is, which makes it hard to catch certain things, but I digress. Cerato is already the slowest of all these other carnivores and omnivores listed. Ceratosaurus is already the slowest on this list in game currently, and we're going to keep that just because it's never going to be as fast as a Carno, and it shouldn't be. It's never going to be as fast as a Dilo, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be as fast as any of these other guys either. And I'd be super surprised if when some of these release, like Ovi and Ostro, if they release and they're slower than a Cerato. So we're going to leave it here in 40 to 44. But this, I think, is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. So, Tenato. Start to get a little bit more interesting. Alright, so, Tenato. Tenato is about the same size as a Cerato and a Carno, but in the game it's also around the same speed. Ceratos can't catch up to Tenos even though they're on their diet. Tenos can walk down Ceratos and kill them, which can be a pain, considering that they have way more abilities to do damage than a single Cerato does. So placing it on this tier should be a little bit more helpful in balancing, putting it between 40 and 44 kilometers an hour, maybe placing Cerato a little bit faster just so that in the case of, let's say, an aggro Irby, the Cerato can escape and Tenos have a chance to defend themselves, especially with the mutation that allows herbivores to regain stamina as they take damage. That always helps in fights, so I think that placing it in the same list is a good way to go. Patchy. We're going to put Patchy up a little bit. We're going to put Patchy in this arena as well. Again, I really feel like it should be a little bit slower than a Serato, especially with its head charge ability. Makes it go even faster. But as it stands, we're going to place it in this tier as well to help give Seratos a chance at catching some of these herbivores as well. Next on the list we've got yes, Hera. So this little guy, the Herrera, should definitely be in this list. It probably, in my opinion, shouldn't be as fast as it is in the game. I think in the game it can get up to 47 kilometers an hour. And I really feel like for something that lives in the tree 24/7, it probably shouldn't have the same speed as some of the lighter, well, some of the more land-based carnivores on the game. Now, there are a lot of things wrong with the Herrera, for example. I sincerely believe that something that jumps tree to tree for a living should have much better stamina when sprinting up trees, jumping from tree to tree, than it does when it sprints. So I feel like that's a balance that does need to be made. So with that, I would definitely put it in this tier, keeping that in mind. I really think that would be pretty helpful. Alright. And finally, oh no, we've got two more. Avaceratops, we're going to put in this tier as well. This is meant to help, again, give Serato, which is just so unbelievably slow, a chance at catching some of these herbivores that are on its diet. Right now, a lot of herbivores can escape carnivores pretty easily. Well, can escape a Serato pretty easily. And I really feel like that we gotta help this guy catch some more people. Because right now it's mostly just carnivore on carnivore violence. And plus the Avaceratops, instead of maybe putting it lower, because it can be a little bit heavier depending on whatever weight they decide to put it at. It keeps the Avaceratops, which is going to be too small to fight off larger carnivores that are going to be coming up. It's going to keep them. It's going to keep it fast enough to help escape in case of danger. Same with the Tenno and the Apache as well. Okay, now finally we've got Megalania. Not yet in the game. This guy should definitely be in this speed tier as well, just because if he goes slower than this, he'll be slipping. He'll be slipping to some of the larger carnivores' reach, which I don't think would be fair for something that's not going to be that large compared to some of the carnivores coming up. So I think it fits in this tier pretty well. It'd be able to kind of catch and fight things like the Ava and the Apache. Probably shouldn't fight a Tenno, but it could catch it if it could, if it ends up being able to. And I think it fits its size as well. All right. Now, next list, 35 to 39 kilometers an hour. So, first off, we have the Kentro. Where is he at? Here he is. We've got Kentro. Alright, Kentro, 35 to 39 kilometers an hour. Putting Kentro down here just because this thing's going to be strong enough to fight off Seratos and Carnos and pretty much everything else on above it. Just not necessarily by itself, but it's definitely going to be able to hold its ground better than, say, Tennos and Apaches in a one-on-one against something like a Carno or a pack of Seratos. So I definitely think its speed should go down a little bit, just because now, since it's going to be so much stronger, it's not going to be able to catch some of the carnivore and herbivores that are above it and going to be weaker than it. But also allows it to kind of remain out of reach from super apex carnivores that would just be able to one-shot it practically, which are going to be coming up down below. And in this category, we're going to have other mid-tier carnivores as well that are going to be a little bit larger. So I definitely think that having it at this speed would give it a chance to get away from these things without necessarily having them catch up to it every single time and destroying it if there's more than one. I'm going to give this guy a chance to escape too. Next up we have Dibble, who I think is already in this category just as is in the game, so we're just going to leave him here. I think its speed is pretty great, its agility is pretty great, it's actually really fun to play. It doesn't need to be much faster because it can hold its own just like the Kentro is going to be able to. And so I'm just gonna leave it in this category. It's 3 tons, so it's definitely gonna be a fit against some of the other carnivores coming up. Next up, Stego at 6 tons, getting bigger and bigger here. I think the biggest one in the last list is probably gonna be Tenno or Ava Ceratops. Tenno's 1,800 kilograms, yeah, something like that. In the game, Tenno or Stego is 6 tons, so we're gonna leave that in this because if you've played the game, if you got a chance to play the game, then you know that things like T-Rex can just, at least as it is right now, completely destroy Stegos. Just completely destroy them. And I don't know that I disagree with that, considering a T-Rex is 9 tons, but it should be just a little bit faster than that, just so that if some of those apex carnivores don't ambush properly, it has a chance to escape. After all, it takes hours to grow this thing, so I kind of want to give it a higher survivability. So I'm going to put it up here between 35 and 39 kilometers, and which keeps it away from those super large carnivores that would absolutely destroy it, but keeps it in the same arena as carnivores like baryonyx, which I'm also going to put in this category. Definitely going to be larger than Ceratos and Carnos. Definitely going to be able to fight things like Dibbles, hopefully Avas if it's got more than one, or not Avas, Kentros, if there's more than one, and potentially Stegos, even though I probably wouldn't recommend it. But definitely keeping it in this tier fits with its size and abilities without necessarily having it again be too much to where it's catching and killing everything above it as well. That's smaller. Next up, we have the Allosaurus. I have no clue how fast this thing's gonna be, but I definitely think it should be in this category. It definitely fits some of the other dinosaurs that I've laid out here. Would definitely be a good fight for Stegos and Dibbles and Kentros, and for any other herbivore that's not paying attention above it. It might be just fast enough to catch it in an ambush, but not necessarily in a full-blown chase. So I think it's definitely worth putting here. Should probably be similar strength to the baryonyx, even though the baryonyx can fight in water. It should probably be a similar strength, so I definitely think it fits in this tier since we're using speed to separate these guys out now. Next up, we've got the Albertosaurus, who is definitely not in yet, even though his model looks pretty cool. Putting him in this tier for the same reasons as the Allo and the Berry. It's going to be of similar size, going to be of similar power. Don't know much about its abilities, but it'll be able to throw down with some of these larger herbivores here, without necessarily, again, wiping the floor with some of the smaller guys above it, just by running them down and killing them. And the last one we have here is the Maya. which I definitely feel like should be in this tier, maybe even higher up in the speed, maybe to 39 km/h, just because currently the way that it fights is a little rough around the edges. But because of its size, definitely got to keep it in this tier so that it can't track down and kill the other herbivores and carnivores that are much smaller than it above it. So that's where I'd put it now. Definitely a bump down from where it is currently in the game. I think currently in the game it can run maybe 44, 45 kilometers. So I think that by keeping it here, it helps balance things out a bit so that people who just want to murder things can't do that to Apaches and Tenos and Cerratos and some of the other carnivores that are going to be coming out. This gives everybody a more balanced kind of gameplay. Alright, so now between 30 and 34 kilometers an hour. First off, we've got the Acrocanthosaurus. This guy, definitely putting down here, apex predator, bigger, larger than everything else on this list, besides possibly a stego, maybe, but they could definitely make it bigger. I don't think people would be too upset, but definitely more powerful. Gonna put it in this tier. Again, can't catch the things above it without a great ambush. And it's definitely now gonna be able to fight some of the herbivores and carnivores that are gonna be following up, like the Giganotosaurus. Excuse me. Putting the Giga in this category as well for the exact same reasons. Gonna be able to kind of track down and hunt some of the other guys that are coming, but it keeps them out of the line. But it keeps these guys out of the line of fire from these monsters, so long as they're paying attention at least. And then we've got the Suchomimus. If I can find the image, here he is. Suchomimus, definitely really cool. Bigger than some of the other guys on this list. Not quite the same size as Giga and Acro, I believe, but definitely still in this tier. Would definitely destroy an aloe. It'd probably beat a berry pretty easily. So I'm gonna keep it in this tier, and put things like the Shant behind it. Shantungosaurus. This dude is massive, absolutely massive, and honestly, I'm gonna put him down here just because he's so large. And we're gonna get back to that in a second. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put him down here, and we'll get back to him in a second. So next one up is Para, who is also large, but not quite Shant large. This is pretty good, I think, because if this thing was faster, imagine it just walking down stegos and dibbles and killing them for fun. That's not always cool. So I'm going to keep it between 30 and 34 kilometers an hour. This, again, keeping it in step with some of the other carnivores here that would definitely be trying to kill it, but now also giving it a chance to escape since they're all similar speeds. And again, this is between 30 and 34, so maybe this is higher up in that range, or maybe it's lower depending on whatever weight they give it and the power it deals, at least. Alright, I'm going to try and pronounce this, the Thylacinosaurus, something like that. This guy, omnivore. Definitely think he should be here. Definitely larger than the picture looks, but certainly not strong enough to beat some of the kings that I'm going to be labeling in the 25 to 30 range. So I definitely think it fits here. Probably going to beat aloes. It's probably going to be pretty similar to a berry, but it's probably going to do some pretty massive damage with those claws. I think that's how it was in the original game, The Isle. So I wouldn't expect it to be too different, so I'm going to keep it in this range as well. And finally, the Ankylosaurus. Probably looks like he should be moving slower, but hey, He's not going to be as strong as this thing's probably going to end up being. I don't see it being a major threat. I like this photo more, so I'm going to put this next to it. I don't see this guy being higher up than this. I don't think it could be just because of how low to the ground it is. But it's definitely going to be a heavy hitter, and it's definitely going to be something that some of these other guys might need to watch out for, depending on how large they make the model. So I really think that it should be in this category. Again, maybe on the higher end, just to give it a chance to escape some of these larger predators. If they get the drop on it, that's going to be so powerful. I mean, I think it should definitely be in this category. Then 25 to 30. I'm going to start off with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Should definitely be in this range. Obviously the strongest on the roster so far, besides the next guy I'm going to name. And yeah, I mean, no further introduction. He could definitely beat Acros, Gigas, Sutros. Might be able to beat Paras one-on-one. Definitely going to be able to beat the Thylacine. Probably going to be able to beat the Anki. So definitely think it should be in this tier. It already is in this tier in the game, which I think is great and actually really helpful. Its ambush speed, I'd probably bring it up a tier because I know it's pretty fast right now. But honestly, I think that's fair because I think smaller things like Dibbles and Kentros and everything else will probably be able to escape it if the Rex times its ambush wrong, because they are going to be so much faster. Alright, next up is Spino. Putting Spino in this category too, for the exact same reasons as Rex. I have no clue what they're going to do with this thing's damage, because obviously in real life it's not beating a T-Rex, but in the game, I know in the last version it was a lot of fun to play. It still couldn't beat a Rex, so maybe if a Rex is, let's say, 25, this thing might be a 30, just to give it a chance to escape if need be. But definitely think it should be in this range. Probably going to be able to beat Gigas and Acros. Definitely going to be able to beat Sutros, Thylacines. Maybe a Para is up in the air. Maybe an Anki is up in the air, but I think it kind of belongs in this tier. And the final one is Trike. Bam. I think Trike right now is maybe 24. I'm going to give it a little speed boost just because I've played Trike before too. And T-Rex is basically able to just walk up and kill this thing. And assuming they keep the damage the same as it is right now when it officially releases, and I don't know that it will. But as it stands, so long as the Rex is able to just outright kill the Trike needs to be in the same tier so that it has a chance to escape if the Rex doesn't sneak up on it instead of walking it down from halfway across the map and murdering it, because the Trike is just too slow to escape. Alright, second to last tier. Now we're going to talk about the Shant. The Shant is huge. It's massive. It's going to be powerful, and it should be. 20 to 24, slowest on the list, next to some of the other guys I'm going to end up naming. Definitely think it belongs here. It's just going to be so massive and powerful. I would be so upset if I played Trike or Spino or Rex and got chased down by this thing and murdered every time I decided to play. That'd get irritating. These larger dinosaurs take way too long to grow. I think how fast you make them and the things that can possibly kill them is going to need to be like in serious consideration, because so long as you can escape from it, it's not that big a deal. After all, like, if you're playing Omniraptor, you're not worried about a Trike killing you because they're just too slow to do it. So kind of taking that same mindset, applying it throughout the list. This thing's going to be massive and powerful and awesome. So I'm going to put it below things like Rex, Spino, and Trike, since I think everybody on this list is going to need more than one to kill this thing. Next, I think this is the Camerasaurus. I definitely liked it in the last dev blog. Definitely going to be larger. It's not it's not like some of the larger sauropods, but it's definitely up there. I think it's probably going to be a similar weight to Shant, maybe. But again, probably going to be more powerful, if not the same strength as something like a Trichinorex, simply due to its massive size. And maybe even whatever abilities they give it. I don't know what that'll look like yet. So I'm going to keep that in the 20 to 24 kilometer range. Maybe even the upper echelons of that at 24 if the Shant was maybe at a 20, let's say. That way it has a chance to escape. After all, that's the precedent here. And then next on this is going to be Maggie, which looks really cool. Looks big. So I'm also going to put that here. I think it's probably going to be, I'd be surprised if these sauropods weren't bigger than Rex and Shrike. So I'm going to keep them here for now. Obviously, we're a very long ways away from getting these in the game. Probably, I think we're all holding out hope, but they've never mentioned these things, and it's been months since they mentioned Rex and Aloe, and it's still not in, unfortunately. So, we're just going to roll with it, putting it here. Yeah, and I think this is probably a good place for it. And then next is going to be Dino, who is not really in the 20 to 24 range. I think Dino needs a bit of a speed bump, even on land. Obviously, still not fast enough to catch everything, but strictly for like convenience. Dino just, it's so slow on land, it's almost frustrating. And I understand it not being able to catch certain things. I totally get that. But, jeez Louise, people have to play this thing. And so I'm giving it a bit of a speed boost. I think right now its max is maybe 15, possibly 18 with a mutation, depending on what server you're on. So I'm going to keep it in this range, give it a bit of a speed bump. And along with this guy, I'm going to put Titanoboa. I know, completely out of left field. I heard it once in a YouTube video. Somebody else was doing a tier list video of the things that they liked and heard of. And I heard them say Titanoboa. I think Titanoboa is great. So I'm going to put it on this thing as well, just because I think it would be great. 20 to 24 kilometers an hour should be a cool cruising speed, if not sprinting speed, for something like this, similar to Dino. And I'm going to get to this actually next, but air and aquatic speeds, I'm going to put Titanoboa in here as well, because if they are going to put it in the game, it'd be absolutely ridiculous to keep it on land, because where's it going to go? What is it going to do? Maybe it can go up trees when it's small. Maybe. Who knows? But it's not going to escape anything on land. It shouldn't. It's like a 10-ton snake. It's ridiculous. So I really feel like it should have a higher aquatic speed. After all, things like pythons, things like boas, boa constrictors, the larger ones, they tend to stay in water. The water helps support their body weight a little bit more. They're way more fluid in water. It's totally normal. So I think something like Titanoboa would be great as a semi-aquatic, heavy on the aquatic, similar to Dino. Speaking of Dino, next on the list, giving him a speed bump. In the water, he's still not even this fast. I really feel like he should be, just because the map is massive. And assuming they add more waterways, which they desperately need to, this thing's going to need to move a little bit faster than it is. It already takes long to grow, which I get, but it's just so slow, even in water, that it's almost frustrating. So I really feel like it needs a bit of a speed bump in the water, specifically, because I don't think anybody being grabbed by a Dino from land really cares about how fast it's moving in the water. Like, if you're getting a drink and that thing snatches you, you don't care about how fast it's moving. You don't. So I think that just for convenience, it'd be really helpful to bump this thing's speed. Next is the Beppy. Alright, I'm just going to say flat out, I think everything in the water, even though I think it's just these two guys, need a speed boost just because we're moving at 2 miles an hour in the water. Even though I think the Beppy's pretty fast for what it is, it's still not like cruising speed. But anyway, that's just me. Please feel free to talk about whether or not you like this list, how fast or slow you think things should be in the comments. Alright, so next up we've got Barry, who again know very little about, being semi-aquatic, but I'm going to put him here too, just because I don't think you should be moving less than 30 kilometers an hour underwater, just because it's just so slow. It's just unbelievably slow. If you're a semi-aquatic animal, you should be very aquatic. You should be able to move fairly quickly, I think. Not necessarily as fast as maybe a Dino, which is going to be more aquatic than something like a Berry or Titanoboa, but definitely fast enough to be comfortable and give a good chase to some of these other carnivores it's going to be fighting. Maybe not Titanoboa. They don't think they've mentioned it, but maybe in the future. Who knows? Fingers crossed. All right, what's next? Yes. Next up is gonna be Ostroraptor. Not in the game yet. Again, I just think it should have that same speed. Same with Troodon, which is definitely not semi-aquatic, probably. If you ever played Troodon, you've probably noticed how easily it moves through the water. So I'm just going to put that there just because why not have more things in the water? Why not give this guy the ability to swim a little bit faster? It's just a fun little thing. I don't even think it can dive right now. I don't think it really needs to, but if you're going to be in the water, why not move a little bit faster? And finally, Herrera. Again, not really a semi-aquatic. This thing can dive though for fish. It's got some other issues. For example, it's able to dive, but it can't hold its breath very long. And I get all that. That's not really an issue, but it moves so slowly underwater. I think that for something that's obviously meant for the game to be able to go underwater and do different things, even if it's for a brief amount of time, should be able to move accordingly. Maybe it's like a 30 on this list. But I think it should definitely be a little bit faster. Okay. Now, air speeds. Yes, Petra. This poor guy has been mutilated day in and day out by the devs. Every update, it is what it is. I just feel bad for him and the people who play him. I used to like it when I first started, but geez, it's a pain. I'm not even going to get into all the things I need to change with Petra right now. But I will say that for something that flies, it flies extremely slow. Extremely slow. And I get they're trying to add the vents, but vents can't be everywhere and they don't really work. So I definitely feel like it needs a bit of a speed boost while people play it, especially if it's them. It's going to continue to be as low as it is. It should definitely be able to move a little bit faster so they can at least cover a better distance. Finally, Quetz. Quetz should definitely be on here as well. It's gonna be snatching smaller carnivores, if not babies, and herbivores, if not babies. So it definitely is gonna need to be a little bit faster in the air, just so that while it's following things on land, it's gonna be able to keep up in some capacity. If it's moving at like 15 kilometers an hour, I mean, it's not catching anything. So definitely needs a bit of a speed bump, even though it's not in the game yet. It should definitely have that kind of speed, because Petra's the only thing that flies and it doesn't even have that speed just yet. Alright, that's pretty much the list. Oh, there we go. I did forget to add Quetz to the 35 to 39 list while it's moving on land. I think it should definitely move this fast. I don't think that it should have great stamina while sprinting or running. But I definitely did think it should be a little bit faster. If it's too slow, these guys will catch it. If it's too fast, I mean, it's gonna look insane. I think this is a good happy medium to where none of these things, it can fight one-on-one, but it's still moving at a decent speed to keep up with things like juvies, which are gonna be in this range. And then, yeah, that's the list. Alright, yeah, no, that's the list. Okay. Thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Like it if you enjoyed it. Again, let me know what you think. Don't be afraid to comment. You guys have a great day. Alright, see ya.